And I saw him do it, and it made me think. Previous instructor, high level kicker, Taekwondo, told me it could not be done.
Yes.
And then I saw someone else do it. Someone that I've never seen, never met, never trained with. But I spent months working on that kick. And eventually I was able to do it. Yes.
You got it.
And it was something that to me is pivotal, right? It's something that another instructor told me was impossible, could not be done. And then you see it on video and you're like, huh. If he can do it, I can do it.
Welcome to the Martial Theory Podcast.
Dave, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
So, briefly speaking, give us your background in the martial arts.
Okay. So I have been doing martial arts for 43 years. Started off when I was a kid. I had a bunch of buddies that were all doing karate at the local karate place. It was fantastic.
Which style of karate?
So it's called Hitatsuru. I started off in a variety of different things, mostly Shotokan, different places, but earned my black belt in Rochester, of all places. Hitatsuru. It's kind of like a local eclectic mix of different karate systems. Shotokan.
Okay. And then
jiu-jitsu, John Saylor. It's Shingatai jiu-jitsu. That's fantastic. A lot of judo, a lot of locks, chokes, pins, and second degree black belt jiu-jitsu. And then more recently, I've been doing lots of Krav Maga under Katie, my wife, Kathleen Murphy. And she is fantastic. And the fun story is I recently passed my black belt test in Krav Maga on my second try because my wife failed me for my first attempt. It was more me withdrawing, but it was clearly a failure. It was a very brutal test. I've been doing martial arts for such a long time that I've seen tests of all different sizes and capabilities, and this was legit one of the hardest tests I've ever seen, let alone participate.
What made it so hard?
2 days. It was 2 days. It was brutal. The first day is like a review of everything with lots of correction, very cerebral. The second day is basically the exact same thing with full intensity and grading. And the hardest part about it, especially for me, cardio. It was exactly 44 minutes. It's a series of hitting bags and then running for a certain amount of time. And you have to do 10 circuits of that, and it's 44 minutes of just tough. And then I was sick prior to that, and so breathing was a big challenge. And cardio, not breathing, not very good. I barely finished that, and then I was spent. I couldn't do anything, so I had to withdraw. And that was a failure, and I was very, very happy to, at this point in my martial arts career, experience a test failure. It's very rare in martial arts these days. You don't see a lot of that. But I was very happy to tell as many people as possible I failed the test. And I failed the test because I couldn't complete it. And I would never want to be able to pass that in that type of a scenario under those circumstances. So I was very happy to fail and then tell everybody that I failed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, good. And to your credit, right? To the credit of the art, to Katie's credit for being willing to fail you, because that's integrity. It's part of integrity. Although, I think probably she enjoyed it a little bit too, knowing Katie. But at the same time, though, that you want to talk about and you want to share that, that's to your credit because it shows temerity, right? Yeah. It shows merit. Maybe Krav aside, let's talk about your other traditional training, because as I've known you over the years, I think earlier when you started doing some seminars and so forth, you taught more from a traditional karate perspective, and always really great stuff. But I think now when I see you teaching, I don't see distinctively karate. I don't see distinctively jiu-jitsu. I don't see, and again, I'm going to put Krav aside a little bit because that maybe is a little more distinctive in itself. But what's the blend within you of those things? Where do you lean on, or what are you trying to express out of it?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because I consider myself a student of martial arts. I don't consider myself like an ambassador of any system or style. I don't feel like I have high enough rank in certain places or have not stayed with one for 50 years. And I feel that I like the events that we're doing today, right? This is world-class instructors that are getting together and sharing their knowledge. And I love this, right? I feel like it's adding to my repertoire of chess pieces, right? All the different moves. There's so many different combinations, and it gives you more and more capabilities to do different things. So for me, I've always gravitated towards systems or arts or instructors that were, in my opinion, well versed or had a little variety. So, for example, when I was in college, I did karate, I did taekwondo, I did a whole bunch of stuff. And the taekwondo was fantastic for helping me learn kicks and high kicks and fast kicks, but almost nothing else. And so I was always looking for, what about this? What about this? What about grappling? What about throws? What about locks? What about chokes? And when you find different systems or instructors or styles that do a little bit of everything, it's very exciting. And I've always enjoyed, let's say, this connecting the dots, right? So if someone takes a swing at me, um, you can respond by striking. You can respond by locks. You can respond by chokes. You can respond by throws. If you don't know one of those, you can't do that. So having that very well-rounded background gives you the capability to do lots and lots. That's fun.
Yeah, well, obviously, as a proponent myself of looking at things from multiple perspectives, understanding the different arts and so forth. Of course, I support that, but I'm going to push back for intellectual purposes, because there's the criticism of that path that is jack of all trades, master of none.
Correct.
And I'll be honest and say that although it's not been my path, most of the people I see who are the best martial artists are not ones who trained in one style exclusively necessarily, but there are people who really went down a particular path hard, right? And I've seen you train. I've worked with you. We've working today on the mat, and have the greatest respect for your abilities. And none of this is really a criticism, but how do you resolve that tension between the experiencing so much and training in so many different varieties, and then at some point it's got to distill down to what's really within you and not what's the
incredibly. And if you teach classes as an instructor, very hard to relay that to other people. So I'll give you the perfect example. I had an instructor who was 5'4", heavy, overweight, big giant belly, like tied his belt and his belly was over.
Yeah.
Taekwondo could kick over my head.
Wow.
Right. And the best thing that I ever learned from him, he talked me through a kick that he himself could not do.
Wow.
Right. So this is a guy who came up in Taekwondo, did lots of Taekwondo, has excellent kicking capability, and there's one kick. His body style just really didn't work for him. But he knew that my body style was fantastic. And he walked me through it and talked me through it. And we practiced this for a long, long time. And we would spar like at the end of class all the time. And one time, it was a roundhouse kick, with pulling the kick back and hitting him in the back of the skull. Right, which is illegal in so many different ways, right? But we were doing this, and he's like, "Man, if you just curl your foot, you'll hit somebody in the back of the head. You'll really get them. It'll be a great shot." And so I'd say 4 or 5 months later, I clicked him with it, and he started laughing. He's like, "Wow, that rang my bell. That was fantastic. A kick I can't do it. It's awesome."
That's great.
If you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, like, and follow. What takes 5 seconds for you actually means a great deal on our end. More than that, nothing is more powerful in our martial community than word of mouth. So please tell other martial artists you know about this podcast. Better yet, send it to them. And if you haven't already, please check out my book, Martial Theory, which has been called The Art of War for the Martial Arts, and which is available on Amazon in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. And if you want to join the movement of martial artists coming together to dig deep into martial arts theory and strategy, then join us at martialtheoryu.com, where a range of senior instructors and I provide instruction, articles, live events, Q&A sessions, discussion forums, and more. Martial Theory University is also where you can see instructors interviewed here demonstrate the concepts that they discuss on the podcast. And when you join us at martialtheoryu.com, please make sure you save 20% with the code MTPodcast. Finally, if you don't want to join us at Martial Theory University, but want to support the time and effort it takes to produce this podcast, then please support us on Patreon, which you can do for as little as $5 a month. But once again, if you join us at Martial Theory University, make sure you use the discount code MTPodcast for 20% off while it lasts. And now, this week's episode.
So from an instructor perspective, there are certain things that will be better for me, for my size, my skills, my capabilities, that won't work very well for other people. And then being able to relay that to other people and showcase them that there are certain things that they may not be able to do, or they may be able to do that I cannot. I think that's very freeing, but it is incredibly hard to figure out what to put in your cup and what not to put in, or what to take out.
So having known you for a while in martial arts context and seeing you teaching early and seeing you teaching now, I see a great transition in how you've approached things. And I'm curious as to how you could articulate your journey over those years, because and what you emphasized.
So I'm going to push back on that. I would love to hear your perspective of what was different, because I sometimes it's hard to see that yourself, right? I would guess or anticipate that it was more specific to a specific style, and then more broad, and then possibly adding in more concepts.
I think the move towards more concepts is part of it. But so earlier trick seminars from you were when I had you out to SMAF, so here's some sparring techniques, here's some sparring drills, or right combinations in essence that we might do. And you've really stepped away from a lot of that now. And now what I get when you do seminars is a lot more conceptual, and it's a lot more mixed. It's you're not focusing on this particular application as you are working within a construct. This way I would describe it. You feel like that, and that maybe I'm wrong.
No,
but that's my observation, that you set up a construct and you say, what are we doing within this construct, as opposed to now here's combination 7 that we can apply in a sparring context.
So it's interesting, because literally we are sitting here at the Renaissance Martial Arts Festival.
Right.
There are
in Rochester, New York, Mark Cardona's Renaissance Martial Arts Festival.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there are instructors that are teaching, and I am up in a couple, probably an hour or so.
Yeah.
And the things that I was thinking about teaching, I basically revised because I saw all of the other instructors do different things. Like, oh, I want to play with that. I want to work off of that.
Yeah.
But it's very hard, right? Do you work on a concept? Do you work on a technique? Do you try to connect them together? Do you do it scaffolded? Start from very slow or very basic concept and move your way up. Do you do something opposite? Today, I'm going to do something different. I'm literally just going to play games today. And within those games come different things that will help people be better martial artists. But the concept is play. Let people experience different things and kind of see how it goes, and then they can decide what to keep in the cup or what to take.
So this is a preface to a question of follow-up. What would be, maybe before Krav really became part of your repertoire, because obviously that's affected you right? Anything we do infiltrates all the other things that we do. So what would you say was a core concept for you in your journey, or as a teacher, in your style, for lack of a better word, whatever, even if it's just your personal expression? What was a core concept, a core theory that was for you very important?
So it's interesting. One of the participants came up to me and he said that he had seen me teach at this event probably 5 or 6 years ago. And the thing that he remembered me saying was, understanding your own martial art within your own martial art, whatever you're doing. I said, add violence. That was the topic of the seminar. And that, I think that really does encapsulate a lot of what I love to show. And I think that's Shingatai Jiu-Jitsu. But even before the Krav Maga has a very strong reputation of being quick and effective,
Yeah.
and reality based. But the Shigatai Jiu-Jitsu is taught by John Saylor. John Saylor out of Ohio. He used to be the head coach of the U.S. Olympic Judo Academy for like 16 years.
Wow.
So super top level guy and a beast, big, huge monster. But his specialty was showcasing people how to do judo for sport and then making a very slight change and making it street effective. So, for example, certain particular throws, solidari, where if you're doing this for sport, my back of my knee is attacking the back of your knee. It makes sure that both people don't injure their knee.
Right.
And he goes, that's a very easy fix.
Right.
All I do is change my angle a little bit and your knee doesn't bend in a certain way. That's where I hit you if this is on the street. So it was certain ways of taking techniques or skills that you had already learned and adding a little extra balance.
Well, help me understand that a little better when it applies across systems, because people might argue, at least one martial arts is violence.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily really true in all ways. So bring me into that add violence idea in other contexts.
So earlier, and I might do this later today, multiple people today were working with the clinch. And we don't see that in this group. Right. And what I was going to do, now what I might do later today, is I'll start with clinch and I'll ask 3 people, give me some options from clinch. And just let them talk about those options.
Yeah.
And then I will rephrase it. And I say, what if you're in the clinch and your life depends?
Wow.
Right?
Right.
It changes everything. It's not so much intention. It's what skills are you bringing to the table that are going to add violence? Because I want to do something that's quick and effective that will get me out of that situation.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I think that I think anyone who has a passion for martial arts is sometimes guilty of this, is that we step away from the hardcore elements of it, and we have to do that in modern times and for safety purposes and stuff, where you can't teach kids to gouge each other's eyes out right when they're 5 years old in your kid's karate class, or at least I got frowned upon for doing that.
Yes, no, I anytime that I go to see another instructor, they say, "Well, this is a self-defense seminar."
Yeah,
they don't talk about anything related to eyeballs. I'm very disappointed.
So now talk to me about Krav, because you had this background. What drew you over to Krav?
Honest answer?
Yeah,
that's
that's
kidding.
You're right.
100%.
Well, let me step back to Shingatai then for a second. Explain what was the distinction between Shingatai and other styles of jiu-jitsu.
Interesting. See, this is one of those things where I feel like I may not be the best ambassador for them. Right, that would be a better question for Saylor, but
which I'd love to ask him something.
Yeah,
I got you
exactly,
here now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So his concept was bring foundational judo, in particular, to students, and then add on top of it traditional Brazilian jiu-jitsu or traditional stand-up Japanese jiu-jitsu, and then add violence. So a lot of it was fundamental judo. So, for example, over the years in judo, you have something like, at one point there were 82 throws, and then there was another time where there were 120 throws, right? And they change from time to time, all the official throws. And John Saylor, he's like, yes, if you're coming up in a traditional judo program, you need to learn all of those. But for him, he was working specifically with Olympic athletes. And he goes, all of my Olympic athletes had 3 throws. He goes, 1 is their main throw. Absolutely. That's their damage. That's the one that they do the most. And then the other 2 throws are how they get to the first. Right?
Right.
And so the first time I was really in front of him, I was under a different instructor and I was training for years. And then I went to John Saylor and he goes, what's your favorite throw? Oh, Sayonagi. He looked me up and down because he's tall. He's 6'6", and I'm like 6'2". He goes, no, it's not. 2 years worth of work. No. You come across a Japanese sport judo practitioner, the chance of you getting that throw as a taller person on a shorter person is 0. Right? He told me, he said, no, what's your next throw? sort of guy. Okay, I can work with that. It's great.
And that's so true of judo players, because we even know that Olympic players they train against certain throws because they know that that's the one the person's
Yes,
going to do.
yes.
Right? We know someone's going to do a toshigari. We know this guy's going to win with a toshigari if he wins, right?
So it was very interesting to me to hear his philosophy, so that, if he had 20 athletes that came to him for judo instruction at the Olympic level, each one of them had 3 throws that they were working on, and every single person had a different set of 3 throws. So he himself had to know all of them. But it was most important that key throw, how do you get there? And it was the other 2 throws that set it up. And it was very, very interesting to me, because he would teach a seminar and he would have 30 people in the room, everybody doing a different throw. Right? And he would go around and goes, wait, which one are you doing to this one? And he goes, oh, no, that won't work. Step this way. And he would make slight corrections to everybody. But it was akin to a chess grandmaster who's playing 40 games of chess all at the same time, walking around at different things and making moves. That's what it looked like. It was amazing.
That's amazing. Do you feel as though that holds true across other martial arts or all martial artists, that we have our go-to elements, and that even with all the people who cross-train so much, that it eventually gets distilled down to,
of course.
Yeah. I feel like maybe, is this an accurate thing for you as well? For me, I find that I'm actually, in a certain sense, broadening what you might see the variation of my techniques being, but I'm actually doing less to accomplish it.
Okay.
You feel like that's happening for you in any way, or?
I think a lot of that depends on what I'm teaching, and honestly the students, because students come to you at different levels, and sometimes they can't grasp the bigger concepts until you give them that foundation first, or you just need to show them the techniques. And sometimes if you're doing a particular kick and everyone in the same room is doing the exact same kick, but then everyone's doing it subtly differently, right? Do you correct everyone, right? Or do this person's body style, are they going to do it slightly different than that person? They might.
Yeah.
Right? Very hard for an instructor to kind of keep track of all of that and figure out how things work. And for me, a lot of it is play.
Yeah.
Try it this way. See if you like it this way.
Right. And ultimately, people have to find their own kick. Right. You got to find your own round kick. Everyone's going to do a round kick potentially, right? You got to find your round kick out of that. Now, what about Krav? Do you feel Krav is, because Krav is not known for a great variety of techniques and tactics.
I have a great story for this.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine who was a black belt. She came up under our program, one of my black belts, and she moved away. And she was looking for a new school. And there were 2 schools that she was interested in. One was a Krav Maga school, which we didn't do at our place at this time.
Okay.
And the other was a karate school where the instructor only taught other black belts. So you had to have an interview with him first. You had to learn more about your skills, about your lineage, before he would even consider taking you on.
Interesting.
So she was very transparent and upfront with him. And she said, hey, I'm contemplating your school, or I'm contemplating the Krav Maga school down the block. He goes, Krav Maga, too basic. Too basic. And for me, literally as a black belt in Krav Maga, that is a legit and good compliment, right?
Right.
Too basic.
Yeah.
It is literally meat and potatoes of martial arts. There's not a lot of subtlety in the difference from Krav Maga to other martial arts systems that I've seen or taught or trained in is the way they do self-defense is very intense, and is designed to be very intense, where they'll make you do very hard cardio and then tire you out, and then make you do those techniques under pressure that are very hard to do. If it's something that requires a lot of skill, very easy for that to fall apart quickly under pressure. But if it's Krav Maga, it's literally, basically, it's a block, it's a punch, it's a kick, and it's 99% to the balls.
Right.
So it is very foundational, but it's designed to be done very well, effectively under pressure for lots of different body styles. It's still something that has a lot of subtlety to it, but generally speaking, it is among the more foundational, basic of martial arts.
Yeah, it's actually where I start my students training. Is I'm not a ultimate Krav Maga by any means, but in some basic construct that's easy to learn. Put it in some realistic construct, get used to applying it. So you've got some basic foundations, then we build upon those foundations. But the question I have for you out of that is, so I'm going to create this polarity that's artificial, but let's deal with it for the sake of argument, right? We have technique on the one hand, we have training method in another space, right? I've heard people criticize Krav and similarly, right? Oh, that's just some basic crap. I could teach anybody that, or sure, but no, the training methodology is very different, right? Yeah, so maybe you've got a punch, a kick, an elbow, a knee, right? A block, right? And some basic tactics that you're going to use. But the training process of Krav is extraordinary.
Much different.
Yeah. Tell us about what that is.
I'll give Kay's story about this. Right?
Okay.
She'll kill me, but I'll give her story.
Well, she should, because I'm going to have her on the podcast. I need her version of this.
So she tells a great story when she had a lot of friends that were doing Krav Maga, come train. And she goes to this new school first day. And she's black belt. She's been doing martial arts for a very long time. She's strong. She's tough. And the instructor goes, "Oh, this is we do things a little bit more intense." "Okay, no problem. Black belt, I can handle it." And he goes, "Okay, so we're basically all we're going to do is a defense from a choke." He shows the technique and he says, "Go." It was very, very limited instruction, right? And she said that the woman across from her grabbed her throat and squeezed as hard as she could. And Katie freaked out, right? And didn't know what to do, forgot the move, and tapped out, right? What do I do? And that's, in my opinion, the epitome and the essence of Krav Maga. That is the training. So it's forcing you to do something in a way that other martial arts typically shy away from. And it's forcing you to do it under a tremendous amount of pressure to make sure that the technique that you're doing.
How much, therefore, is mental as opposed to physical?
In Krav Maga, almost all of it.
Would you say 90% mental, and the rest is rest is nice to have as well?
Yeah. So, for example, on my black belt test, both times, the first time where I actually failed, and the second time where I passed, there were parts where I wasn't even aware of the techniques that I was doing. I was thinking, go, survive, continue, go, keep going. And that's all I needed. And that's the point, right? That's the point of a test that is designed specifically to pressure you to make sure that all of the stuff that we're working on can work under a tremendous amount of duress, tremendous amount of pressure.
That's interesting. So do you feel like should more martial arts adopt that?
In my opinion?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And violence.
So there are two different things.
Okay.
There, right? So the add violence is the way that I would respond to something.
Okay.
But the training technique, like literally someone putting their hands on you to do a choke, is a lot different than someone squeezing.
Yeah.
That subtle change by itself makes a huge difference. Huge.
Would you say in Krav, is offense the best defense?
Yeah. Yes. So I have a saying within the Krav Maga program. It's very simple. When in doubt, hit them. Right? It's so easy. Closest weapon, closest target. When in doubt, hit them. Because just a little kinetic energy, and it doesn't matter literally what you're doing. It doesn't yes, it would be better if you hit them in specific spots in specific ways with specific techniques.
Right.
With a specific spot. Yes, absolutely.
Sure, it would be better.
It would be better, right?
Right.
And we say this all the time in Krav Maga, good, better, best.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of our students are only at the good level, right? They're learning something basic, but it's generally speaking straight.
But don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. And so returning to that, to borrow sort of Tim Larkin's phrase, and I talk about this in martial theory, is you're talking about getting the opponent into the reactive state where they're always reacting to something that you're doing. Something I always talk to my students about as being extremely important, because once they're in a reactive state, now I'm not getting attacked anymore.
Correct.
I'm effectively attacking them
Correct.
and they're defending against me.
Correct.
Right. And that's, you feel, as a mainstay of where I think that's a distinctive feature of Krav, in a sense, that it's bringing to the fore for a lot of other discussion now.
And I think that's true of a lot of martial arts for different things. Like, if a bad guy is engaging with you, an opponent is engaging with you, when they are, whatever they're doing, whatever their motion is towards you, they are automatically thinking in their head, they are winning. Whatever I do needs to flip that around.
Right.
And so, a lot of times we like in certain martial arts, you have a bad guy that does one move, and then I will do 7 moves.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And that may not be realistic.
Right.
But the concept is there. Right. They're doing one thing, I'm doing something, and they're like immediately, oh, I'm in danger. And I'm not stopping.
No.
Like, I'm gonna add on and add violence and do different
Their turn,
things.
my turn, my turn, my turn, my turn, my turn, my turn.
Absolutely.
Before we continue, just a quick reminder that if you want to see our guests demonstrating the theory they discuss here on the podcast, then join us at Martial Theory University by going to martialtheoryandthelletteru.com and make sure that you use the coupon code MTPodcast for 20% off while it lasts. Also, if you're enjoying thinking theoretically here, or even if you just enjoy thinking at all, and you want to learn more about it for your career, as a parent, or just for your own development, then please visit my Substack, Perlman Actual Intelligence, for tips, instruction, and discussion on critical thinking. Just go to Substack, Perlman Actual Intelligence.
I want to know from you, from a personal perspective, in terms of your growth as a martial artist, what was a pivotal insight that you had? You talked about ad violence, and I love that, of course, but I don't think that was maybe as much of a transition for you in your journey and your growth as a martial artist. What was a pivotal?
So many. Remember, 43 years.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, that didn't mean you only had one.
No, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And I love asking this question to my students. Right. If you end a class, a lot of times people will ask you, do you have any questions?
Yes.
Instead, I will ask people, why are you here? Why are you here tonight? And every single person will have a different answer. And I have heard all of those answers, and I have personally felt those feelings or those different answers or concepts over the years. So, for example, the reason that I started martial arts was I had a very good friend that got, we were kids.
Yeah.
And his father was a boxer in the army, and he wanted him to go to martial arts, and he went, and he was having a good time. But the concept was to protect yourself. And so I went with him. And that by itself, that was great for years. And then after that, he went to a different school. So do I stay at this school? Do I go with him? I went with him. Right? I wanted to stay with him. So it was no longer self-defense. Now it was camaraderie. Right? Now it was friendship. And then going to college, when I was in college, I joined every martial arts program that there was. My favorite is actually, I was at the University of Buffalo. I was a founding member of the University of Buffalo Taekwondo team. And now, last year, I had a student who went to UB, and he's like, oh, they're celebrating their 35th anniversary. But for me, it changes depending on what year it is, what's going on in my life. Why am I still doing martial arts? Camaraderie, fun, athleticism, trying to keep up with other people, trying to keep my wife happy. There's a lot of different things in there, but mostly it's about fun. I do it because it's fun. It's still fun for me.
Yeah.
And when it stops being fun, that'll be a challenge.
So those are motivations, and I'm glad you shared them, because I think so many people are going to appreciate that and feel the same way, that our motivations change. I'm looking for a pivotal insight into the arts on which you turned, and your journey, that you felt maybe took you to another level or gave you a different perspective on how to train or how to get better.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
Yeah. I think that's a harder question.
That's why I'm asking.
Exactly. I like that. That is a good question. So I think for me, that has to do with either meeting someone that had a different skill than me, foreseeing something that I didn't think was possible, or feeling something like Rob Terlizzi ripping my leg off.
Yeah.
Right? I've had that happen, no joke, 3 times, 3 different seminars, and each time it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
But those kinds of things are in my opinion, pivotal. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a 5th degree Taekwondo black belt instructor whose father was a very famous grandmaster. And we were talking about board breaking, and we had talked about foundational break where both hands are holding the board. And then we had talked about a solid break where one hand is strongly holding the board to a relaxed break, right? Where you're barely holding the board. That obviously is the most challenge,
Sure.
right? You have to get a tremendous amount of speed. And I asked him, we were doing a whole bunch of different things, and I asked him, can you do that with a side kick? And he said, no. I'm like, why not? He goes, because you can't generate enough speed for doing that kick. It works better with other kicks where you can generate a tremendous amount of speed.
Right.
And I let that sit in my head for years. And then I was watching a Bruce Lee documentary. Old school VHS, right? And they're having interviews with him and doing all kinds of stuff, and they're interspersing this with little clips of him doing different things. And no joke, there's his buddy holding on, and there's him doing a side kick and obliterating that board. And I stopped the whole room, 10 people in the room, stop, time out, rewind that. And I must have watched it 10 times, right? And I saw him do it, and it made me think. Previous instructor, high-level kicker, Taekwondo, told me it could not be done. And then I saw someone else do it. Someone that I've never seen, never met, never trained with. But I spent months working on that kick. And eventually I was able to do that. Yes.
You got it.
And it was something that to me is pivotal, right? It's something that another instructor told me was impossible, could not be done. And then you see it on video and you're like, huh. If he can do it, I can do it.
That's a driving force for me too, because it's more like when I see the human body can do that, right? It's not just that you could do it; it's that wow, that's something that's possible in the martial arts. Now I have to be able to touch that, right? Yeah. I'm not going to do it as well as that person, or maybe I get better, but it doesn't matter, right? Now I've got to start to understand how my body can start to make that thing happen.
I think there's a famous example of this. I think it was the 4-minute mile. I think in the 1930s, whenever it was, there were people that said it couldn't be done, couldn't be done. And then one person did it.
And then lots of people.
The next year, there were a lot of people that did it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's awesome.
What about competitions?
Okay.
Big background there?
Yes, actually. So I do have some fun competition stories. Actually, when I was a kid, when I was maybe 14, so probably 3 years into my martial arts training, I won a big school tournament at the school. That was a nice feeling. Like winning a tournament was fantastic.
Yeah.
So later on, when I had more opportunities to do that, I did. I founded, but was part of the founders for the University of Buffalo Taekwondo team. And way back in the day, Taekwondo tournaments was a big deal on the collegiate circuit. So they had different tournaments in different colleges, and we went to Cornell. Cornell had the Cornell Invitational. It was a big deal. And they had, we come in and we thought we were a big school, and we had one team, right? One team. And the Cornell team, they had 4 different teams.
Wow.
They had 4 different teams. And their ace team, their best team, they had a guy on that team that was Korean and very tall, unusual. And he was incredibly fast, and he was the ace. They had other guys that did different things. Anyway, that team, our team went up against them, and back in the day it was 5 against 5. And you have 2 guys go, and then 2 guys go, and 2 guys go. Whichever team wins more matches, they advance. So we got swept, except for my match.
Oh.
And my match, I beat their guy, their top guy. And I was the only person in the entire event that gave him a run for his money and actually beat him. And the head coach came over to me very specifically, said, that was a great fight.
That's great.
Yeah. We lost. They advanced. They won the whole thing.
Yeah.
But he was very, very impressed. And I
That's
remember that. So it was literally, I won that little match, but we lost the entire team event. So we lost the entire event. But it was a great feeling. It was great.
This is a great segue into my next question, which sort of brings us back to Krav.
Mhm.
Do you think Krav, from a self-defense perspective, sends a message to the rest of the martial arts community? Do we need more than Krav? Let's put it that way. Do we need more than that to protect ourselves? Is there too much superfluity in other martial arts that we don't need? And maybe we enjoy it, right? Maybe we love it, because I sure as hell do, right? I mean, I love it to my core, all the different techniques, all the different training approaches, the different mechanics, the intricacies. I love it, right? But do we need from a self-defense? We do.
We need it from a self-defense perspective, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. So here's my classic example: black belt in jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
and black belt in Krav Maga.
Yeah.
And I love grappling. I love tying people up in knots, right? Fantastic. But if my life depends on it, nothing on earth in a grappling situation can stop my finger from finding your eye.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot stop me from doing it. And honestly, that's any. Right. You'd have to control all of their limbs, all of their body, everything all at once, and never let them remove an arm. Right. Never happen. But yeah, how fun is that? Right.
Right.
If your entire jiu-jitsu program is
just poke them in the eye, right?
It gets boring very quick.
Yeah.
But you need the foundation of all the other stuff, because if you take that one piece away, everything else falls apart. Right. So you want to have a scaffold. You want to have that foundation. Otherwise, your deck of cards just collapses.
Yeah, I tell my students the same thing, right? Like I say, one of the ultimate answers to this situation really might be you stick your finger in their eye, or some other kind of equivalent simplistic.
It's my favorite example of what the UFC has taught us. Right? No UFC match that I've ever seen, and I've seen them all, right, ends as quickly as someone just getting tapped in the eye.
That's right.
Right. And I'm talking this.
Yeah.
Right. That'll stop a match immediately. This.
But it's not interesting to train that for a lifetime, right? We can learn that pretty fast.
Right.
And I also think, from a self-defense perspective, for people who train hard in whatever art they're doing, ultimately it becomes a distillation, right? They're not going to maybe do what Krav is doing. And that's, there's no criticism in that. There's praise in that, which is to say, we're going to whittle something down that we're in a real self-defense construct. Anyone in any art's going to rely on the basics more than the advanced. They're going to rely on the few go-to things. There are 3 judo throws, right, that they're going to come back down to.
There is a catch to that, though, right? The catch to that is you have to train that enough, and train that enough under duress to make that your thing.
That's right. Right.
So, for example, I know my 3 throws. I know my thumb. I know exactly. But we train that. Like we very specifically. I touch people literally on the top of their head, and I say eyes, because I know from the top of your head I can very easily find your nose. But it's me practicing. It's me understanding. I know where their eyes are. Right. But you're correct. If you take that away, or if you're not doing that, or if you're not training that, or if you're not training it under duress, then what do? You go back to whatever you do the most, or whatever you enjoy the most, or whatever you practice.
Or you fall back to what's instinctive, which is not martial arts, right? You're just reacting, right? Flinching and so forth. Right. And your martial arts, we hear all the stories of people who train for years and then they get attacked, and they get choked for the first time when they're grabbed, and their martial arts goes out the window.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So you've also been teaching a really long time now, and I'm curious what message you would send, or what piece of advice you would offer, or maybe it's just for yourself, but what piece of advice would you offer to other instructors about teaching the arts? And maybe it's for instructors who are coming up along the way, because I think there could be great younger instructors, but if they're not getting better, right?
Yeah.
What's a piece of advice that comes out of you for them?
That's a fun topic, and it's actually one of the things that I used to do a lot more of, where I would train instructors. And there's a lot of, I classroom management, like understanding student management, understanding different capabilities of students, where they are, meeting them where they are, and then adding to their skills. But for me, the most important by far skill that an instructor can have is to make sure that the students are having fun, period. If they are not having fun, if they are not engaging, if they are not learning a little tiny thing every single day, they will stop. So if you're having fun with them, that's a huge accomplishment, and it's a big deal to make sure that you're able to provide higher level stuff later, right? If I'm only teaching concepts and I'm not teaching technique, something's falling apart. And if I'm the opposite, much more common, if I'm
Right.
only teaching the technique and not showing any of the deeper concepts, they're not really getting it, right? And you have to figure out what to show first, what to show when, what to show later, what to add on. It's a big challenge. But for me, the foundation is just general excitement and making the students happy.
Fun.
It's got to be fun. If we're not doing this, we're paying for it, right? We're paying to have other people smack us around.
Right.
And boy, if you're not having fun, something's wrong.
So, last question. People around the world are going to listen to this. Martial artists around the world
Excellent.
listen to this. I expect billion or two.
Excellent.
Obviously. But for posterity's sake, or wherever you are now in your head about it, what's something you would want to say to the martial arts community as a whole?
I think the main thing that I would try to relay to other martial artists, I've met a lot of martial artists in my life that are, how to say this gently, stuck. So they have one concept or one skill or one technique or one whatever it is. And
Yeah.
that's their thing. And they've been doing it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. I appreciate that. I understand that. But there's more out there. And so for me, sometimes it's broadening your horizons. You may not train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but that doesn't mean Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu doesn't have very impressive and capable skills
Right.
that can help you as a better martial artist with whatever you're currently doing.
Yeah.
And that goes for any martial arts, with any system, with any style. Training in one thing will make you better in something. My fun story for this is I took a year off from martial arts and I did mountain biking. No other martial art. I just went mountain biking. I mountain biked a lot. When I came back, I thought that I would be a year behind all my friends, all my buddies. But boy, were my kicks so much better.
Yeah.
But it wasn't strength. It was balance, right? So mountain biking was forcing you to do different things, specifically balance, specifically strength. But it allowed me to do things at a much easier way. So for martial artists around the world, broaden your horizons. It doesn't have to be other martial arts.
What a great piece of advice to end on. Dave, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this.
Please share the work we're doing here with other martial artists. And of course, please subscribe and follow. To see instructors interviewed here demonstrate the theory they discuss, join us at Martial Theory University by going to martialtheoryu.com and make sure you use the discount code MTPodcast for 20% off while it lasts. Finally, if you generally enjoy thinking and want to learn more about it, then please join my Substack, Perlman Actual Intelligence.